everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Special Needs on the Table, with your host, Alyssa Apostolopolous.
And me, Yomi Karade. Today, we are very excited to kick off Autism Awareness Month, the mum, a businesswoman who is quite the expert in the field.
Yes, we want to welcome Rebecca from Raising Fireflies to our podcast. So hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're
Hi,
good. We're
Rebecca.
so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, good. We wanted you to start off and just tell us about yourself and your background.
So I started, I have two young children, and my oldest daughter, she's going to be turning 7 in August, but she has been diagnosed with autism. And she's really the reason, the catalyst as to why I started exploring in this field. When she was little, she started having, showing some signs, and we were just kind of at a loss. We just didn't know what to do. So I threw myself into education because I wanted to be her specialist and her personal, expert. So I learned everything I could, and I became very well versed in the subject. I helped her with a lot of stuff, everything that we were going through. Of course, it took so much time, but I learned so much, and I just felt like, it was something that I was going to need to know for the rest of my life, dealing with some challenges with her. So I ended up helping her, helping my own family, and helping others along the way. And I fell in love with it. So I learned that I was pretty good at it. And I wanted to, just be that constant support system for other families who were going through the similar things and situations that we were going through, which was extremely challenging and trying. So my main purpose is just to help support families that are feeling, exhausted and drained and just like they've completely lost themselves. I want to help them get back to that point, like we did. So
that's amazing. I mean, I'm an autism mom as well, so I know exactly what that feels like. When
horrible.
it's yes.
I know, and I hate to say that, and that's nothing to reflect the children, but it's just, we're trying so hard to be like this constant support all the time, and it's just like, sometimes you just lose yourself.
Yes. And that's why it's important to find yourself at the same time while you're going through this whole thing. It is difficult, it is challenging, but somehow we get through it. So that leads me on to the next question with this whole thing about April being Autism Awareness Month. So what does that mean for you?
Well, I think that it's fabulous that autism has, a month to celebrate, but I just feel, and I made a post about this the other day, or a reel, or whatever in the social media world calls it now. But, I just made this post about how we're past that awareness point. People should at this point already be aware of what autism, is, what it means, and what it looks, how it presents itself. We should be at that point where it's accepted now. So, that whole term awareness is just, I know it's kind of controversial. And I think it should be more about education, so that people, it should be in our culture. We should be teaching it. It should be just more about awareness, accepting, we need to be accepting it as a part of our culture, especially because of the rates and how many, the prevalence just keeps increasing. So I love that it's celebrated an entire month. It should be an entire year. It should be every day, a part of our, yeah. And so hopefully, we're moving towards that direction.
I think we are. I think that people are starting to get a little bit more comfortable, shall I say the word is, with autism. And that leads me also to, you talked about the rates of the prevalence of autism now. I know the CDC said there's 1 in 8 children are diagnosed with autism in the US, and 1 in 42 boys, 1 in 189 in girls. Yeah. In your opinion and knowledge, do you think that more boys are diagnosed with autism compared to girls?
Absolutely, I do. And I think it's because, and again, I made a post about this the other day, girls are, it's just an understanding. Sometimes they can be a little bit more emotionally mature than boys. They're aware of their surroundings. They're aware of society. They're aware of expectations. So because their social skills are, a little bit more mature, they know how to mask or social camouflage some of those behaviors. They know how to, like, you know, appeal to, you know, societal expectations, and, you know, they kind of tone some things down. And that's exactly what happened with my daughter. It took us years to get her a diagnosis, because she just constantly would not perform. She would not show her true self. She would not, you know, she felt like she had to hide, which breaks my heart, you know. And I know a lot of families that I work with, they have daughters and they have very similar stories. And, you know, it's really difficult to get a diagnosis because, you know, they're hiding some of those behaviors. And in addition, I had also mentioned, you know, one of the signs of autism is, you know, an obsession with items. But if that obsession is a girl, like considered girly or something like that, it could be easy for a doctor to just kind of dismiss that because, oh, it's just a girl, she's just playing with dolls, you know, but it actually could be an obsession. So
interesting.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So as a mom who has a daughter with autism, what are some of the daily challenges that you go through, or that you even heard from some of your clients as well, that they go through on a daily basis?
So right now we're definitely, I mean, she's getting older and we've been years into trying to help her with her regulation and strategies that, you know, we've been able to, you know, really incorporate into our lives. But what we used to really have a hard time with was transitions, meltdowns. Like we couldn't go to the store, we couldn't go to parties. It was just, I mean, I felt so bad, you know, saying like, no, you know, if we got an invitation, I want my child to be a part of it. But at the same time, it would cause her such incredible distress, you know, to have to take in all of that input, take in all of that stimulation, and somehow at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, process that. It's a lot to ask a child, you know. So it was all the time meltdowns and tantrums, and which are two different things, by the way. And, you know, not being able to really participate in things that I saw for myself and my child and our family. When you have a child, you know, you're thinking about all these things that you want to do with them, and then sometimes you can't. So there's also like a grieving process that's involved too, you know, and accepting, and that can be really challenging. And a lot of the times, a lot of the families that I work with really share that same, you know, those same problems.
Absolutely. And actually in our conversations, even before this, you had made a comment that people would say like, oh, she'll get there, and how that's not exactly the right language to be using. And, you know, when people are trying to say the right thing, what would you recommend for them? What is the way to address it and acknowledge what you're going through and what your child might be going through?
So this is kind of tricky because I truly in my heart don't believe that they're trying to be harmful. I think they don't know what to say. And again, that's kind of a part of this whole thing that like autism is not really talked about enough. Like they feel like it's taboo, like they can't really talk about it. They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, which I can appreciate, you know, that consideration. But at the same time, these kids are, you know, they're just kids. So maybe just because it is a sensitive topic, I would suggest to maybe just listen a little bit more and just validate, you know, save those opinions, you know, for another time, even though you know, even though they're not trying to hurt somebody's feelings. And I totally get that, but it's just in that moment, sometimes we just need to vent, you know, we just need to vent.
Absolutely. Where could we find more information about girls who have autism?
So I think that, you know, if you really right now, you can just Google that. It's on the CDC. There's loads of websites. If you just type it in, it will come up. There's, you know, new information coming out every day about why girls are, you know, not as diagnosed as frequently. So hopefully we'll start to see a little bit more of a turn now that's becoming more aware. You know, people are becoming more aware of that.
That's wonderful. Thank you about that. Because sometimes, you know, we see a lot of boys, everything's usually about boys with autism, and usually the girls get left behind. And I'm thankful that you actually have come on the show today talking about that. Now let's get into you. Now let's talk about your business. Let's talk business now. Let's talk about Raising Fireflies. I see all your wonderful posts on Instagram, so let's hear it.
Thank you. Well, Raising Fireflies, it's very special to me because obviously my daughter was my inspiration for that. I have 2 daughters and both of my kids were my inspiration. I hate saying that because, you know, I don't want to leave one out, but my oldest daughter, Juliet, she's on the spectrum, and, you know, because of everything I learned and because of, you know, how our lives have changed based off of what we've learned, I want to do the same for other people. So the reason why, and also the reason why I chose the name Raising Fireflies is because our children are like fireflies. I mean, they're very special. They're captivating. They have such unique gifts. You know, just because a child is labeled autistic does not mean that they are not gifted, talented, valuable. They have all these amazing qualities and traits. And if you pay attention, you will see them. They're very captivating and they're meant, you know, to light up the sky. So we are raising children and we are raising fireflies. That's the significance behind my business name. So.
Excellent. So what makes your business different from others out there?
Well, I think because I started from the bottom. I started, and I don't mean to say the bottom, but it's from the ground up. You know, I was a part of that experience. So I have personal, real life experience that I can relate to other parents. You know, I'm not like corporate agency. It's not just about the numbers and the statistics. It's about connection and, you know, who I can help and who I can reach. And, you know, that's extremely important to me. You know, I basically become a part of my client's family. We're partners and I'm with them the entire way. It's like one-on-one support, constant support. And I get that question sometimes, you know, like, you know, in my DMs, people send me messages and they're just like, you know, what's the difference? Like, why would what would I not be able to get from someplace else? So my answer is when you have a therapist, you know, and normally that's what the treatment is, you know, ABA therapy or OT or, you know, whatever kind of therapy you need. But once that therapist is gone, a lot of times the parents have nowhere to they don't know who to ask. They don't have anybody like right in their home to ask them the questions because it's easy to be, you know, caught up in the moment. When they're there, you understand, but then when they're gone, you're just confused. That happened to me all the time. So that's basically why I started this. I wanted to be a constant line of support so that even when the therapist leaves, they have somebody to call and ask all their questions to. And I didn't see that anywhere else. I didn't see that.
Fully encompassing approach. You know, the families get every aspect with your guidance and support.
Exactly. And, you know, I'm not saying that I'm an expert in everything. You know, I have the background I have. So my personal background, I have a background in my master's in education and also ABA, but it's more about like what my personal experience can offer. That's what sets me apart.
You say on your website that you help families glow. Love that word. I think it's very fitting for Raising Fireflies. So what does a glowing family look like to you? Because you have so many families with all incredible different qualities. They're not going to be the same. So what does that mean?
So again, going back to the term Raising Fireflies, you know, how each child is special and unique, and the same goes for, you know, their whole family. I just feel that when we're in it, it's difficult, it's challenging, you know, it's multifaceted. You lose yourself sometimes, you lose, you know, what's important to you, you neglect yourself. So self-care is something that's extremely important and it gets neglected when you're trying to take care of, you know, bigger issues. So the goal of our program is to not only like address, you know, challenges and reduce problem behaviors, but it's also to empower the parents and the families and to get them back to where they used to be, to make them feel like themselves again. And in that sense, it's like we're reigniting that flame, like that little glow that they have. And They deserve that. They deserve to shine. They deserve to be who they're supposed to be and not feel, suppressed or pushed down or, whatever from the challenges that they're facing. So.
I understand that feeling of like, it's almost like you've lost something and you have to you're scrambling to find it. But within all the daily grind that you go through and having a family and trying to just, almost put that painted smile on your face and walk out the door, it's very difficult, and unless you go through it, it's hard for a lot of people to understand, So that leads me into my next question. What areas can your company, Raising Fireflies, help a parent or family?
So I've helped with so many. I'm sure you've seen on my current website, which by the way is getting rebranded. So a lot of the stuff that's on my current website is being changed. I've done picky eating, I've done sleep training, I've done, toileting, I've done meltdowns, I've literally the whole gamut. But I have come across so many families who really need specific help with tantrums, meltdowns, transition issues, sensory issues, and executive functioning. So that's pretty much what I am now focusing on. So, when we work together, I do offer 2 different programs. And I guess we'll explain that, I guess, later. But, when we work together, we basically focus on those main challenges. So meltdowns, tantrums, sensory issues, and transition issues. And in the midst of that process, I'm also helping with what we just talked about with reigniting the family flame so that they can glow and become, what they used to be and feel confident and empowered and happy again and not tired or exhausted, but confident in their parenting.
That's great. That's going to be so helpful. So can you break down I think you have 2 different programs that you do?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're new.
Tell us about it.
This is slightly new within like the last month or 2, but there's a mini program. It's like a little baby program. And that's for parents who don't have a diagnosis yet for their child. So like the evaluation line is forever, which I'm in New Jersey and it took 2 years for my daughter to get an evaluation. So that's for parents who don't yet have an evaluation, but they're like suspecting their child might be on the spectrum and they just need some like expert guidance, to talk to and not have like a limitation on that. So like, of course you go to your pediatrician, but they rush you out, like you can't really ask all your questions. So that package is for somebody who really just wants like, some one-on-one support to talk out like the challenges that they're facing, the questions that they have, and what they can be doing right now in this moment before they even go towards that diagnosis. And that program is called Steps to Diagnosis. It's 2 weeks long with one-on-one support. You get 2 45-minute coaching calls. And then after you get a family assessment and a plan for like the next steps of what you should be doing for, next steps moving forward. And then after that, you get a whole week extra of just one-on-one, text and voice support. So the program's 2 weeks, but I hang on a little bit longer, if they need a little bit extra, because that's just who I am.
Good.
That's so nice.
I can't even stop it. It's like the actual.
And you're a part of their family at that point too.
I know. Like,
yes.
I don't like to leave. Actually, it's really sad when. Yeah, it's good when they graduate, but then it's sad. But so the next program, that one's called Navigate the Spectrum at Home. That's the big one. That's the pretty intensive and comprehensive program. It's about 12 weeks long. You get 6 90-minute coaching calls. So every other week you get a 90-minute coaching call. I perform like an intake and a whole evaluation, and we do a family plan specific to the needs and goals that, the family requires. So whatever that is, with meltdowns, tantrums, whatever areas of concern that family has, I develop a plan specific for their needs. And it lasts about 12 weeks. And once they graduate, they get an additional 3 weeks of voice and text support as well.
Wonderful. And there's just those 2, yes? For now.
It's those 2 for the main. Yeah, I was getting really busy with a lot of people who they needed a lot of support, and it all really that's pretty much where it landed. So I decided to just make 2 programs for it instead of just having like, you know, an open-ended support plan, like whatever they needed. I just tailored it right to them. So when people are looking for that support online or on Instagram, you know, they can come right to me and they know that I can help them exactly with what they need.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
What are some of the results you've had with the families that you've been working with?
So it's actually really, really amazing. It makes me extremely happy to see their success. A lot of times, I mean, it can be, you know, that they've figured out how to get ahead of those meltdowns. I teach them how to understand the difference between a meltdown and a tantrum. I teach them how to get ahead of it, how to support their child, how to meet their child's needs, how to become proficient in their behavior. That's what I like to call it, because, you know, a lot of times we don't know what our kids are trying to communicate with these behaviors, and all behavior is a form of communication. So when they're, you know, doing these, you know, they're like hand flapping or stimming or whatever they're doing, they're communicating something. So it's my goal to teach them, you know, to assess the situation, assess what, you know, the history, and to figure out what the pattern is, what are they trying to communicate. So we've accomplished those goals. We've accomplished, you know, just basically, the last client that I had, the last big client that I had, her family, she had a hard time with like her family understanding, you know, what autism was and how it affected her daughter. And that really caused a lot of distress. So I also sort of throw in some family help there as well and help them with their family so that they're all on the same page too, because that's a huge part if you don't have that support.
Wow. You know, I'm really enjoying this because it's like you just give such a full picture of everything that I'm like, yes.
Oh,
yes.
really? Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh my God.
I still have that mom brain. So I'm talking and I'm like, did I get what I wanted to say?
Yes. No, it's the things that you want to hear that, you know, that are not in the textbooks. You know, you can't find this information in the textbooks, but, you know, when you go through it personally, you realize that when you talk to people, other mothers and fathers, you know, families are going for the same thing. And I really appreciate this interview right now. So everybody check this interview. Keep watching, everybody, okay?
Thank you.
All right, so we all know the pandemic hit about 2 years ago, and it came fast and hard. So how do you think that this impacted the autism and the special needs community?
I mean, there was like no school. There was no school. There was no therapies. There was nothing. I was working at a school at the time as a behavior therapist, and I was devastated because I was working with this one child who really needed me. And it just really it was sad, you know, when the pandemic happened, I no longer could work with him. And we weren't allowed to do virtual sessions at that time. I don't know if he maybe their family didn't sign up for it, if it just wasn't approved through whatever, but that was it. I no longer saw him again. And he really needed me. So he needed intervention. He needed help. He needed support. And so did his family. So, and I really wonder where he is now, but because, you know, I don't work for that company anymore. I don't have access to that information. But I can only imagine if that's what happened to him, and also my daughter, the same thing happened to her, that it happened to every other child, you know, out there that didn't have that access. And now they're falling behind, and, you know, they didn't have that support that they needed. And it's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. The pandemic really caused a huge issue. So, I mean, some schools right now are having this program where they come in addition to the regular class, they have another a specialist teacher come in to kind of accelerate a little bit. But, you know, I don't think that it's going to be greatly effective. I mean, because there was 2 whole years of intense damage that caused.
Yeah.
It definitely did. And, you know, we are playing catch up for all that time that's been missed. And, you know, while kids are back in school now, for the most part, I'm sure there are families who are still struggling, right? There's so much that has happened in the past couple of years that, you know, they're playing catch up and then some, because there might've been so much regression. So are there any recommendations for families that you feel like, you know, are struggling now in this moment? They're watching this, they're feeling like, I am just so overwhelmed. What would you say to them?
Well, of course, the first thing I'm going to say is contact me, because I'm just like, you know, I am living for those families right now. That's my purpose in life and my whole entire mission. Like I wake up and go to sleep thinking about who am I going to help today? So please reach out to me. The other thing is like, so the pandemic not only affected the children, but it did affect the parents. It affected marriages. It just completely obliterated families because they just couldn't take on all of that extra pressure. You know, families had to stop working, you know, to do homeschooling that wasn't successful. I mean, I can't even imagine homeschooling my child, and I am a specialist. It doesn't matter. It's not a one size fits all thing. Not every family can do that. So what I would recommend to those people is to just, you know, take a breath and to just reevaluate and, you know, assess their life right now and think about the things that they're thankful for, and to not get pulled down with that negativity, because it really will suck the life out of you if you just focus on like the bad stuff, which is really hard to say, because I know sometimes we just feel like, you know, it's just constantly, you know, like we just can't get a break, but we got to manifest the positive. And also call me.
Yes. So how can people contact you? If we're going to call you.
they can find my website. It's raisingfirefliesllc.com, which, by the way, I know I said, but it's rebranding right now, but all my contact info is still on there. They can still access the website. My Instagram is at raising_fireflies. And my Facebook is at Raising Fireflies Consulting. So they can, you know, or go on there and send me a DM, check out my website, and they can also email me, raisingfireflies@gmail.com.
Wonderful.
Perfect. You are clearly accomplishing so much and helping so many families out there. What goals do you have for the future beyond that? I mean, you already are so busy, I'm sure, doing so much.
It's so busy. Sometimes I don't know. It's just insane. I'm trying to work through my own executive functioning right now. But so I wrote a children's book, and right now it's in illustrations. So that's going to be published within the next 2 months. And I'm really excited about that, like out of my mind excited about that, because it is, it's the start of a series, and it's about my daughter. It's an overview of who she is and how she got to be the way she is. So right now she's super confident, but you know, she wasn't always like that. So it basically goes into the past and talks about the struggles that she faced and how she overcame it. And it's a children's book, and it's written in her perspective. So it's really great. It's a really special story.
I can't wait for that to come out. That's going to be amazing. Really.
Thank you.
Rebecca, we are just so grateful for you, everything that you do, and especially for coming on the podcast today. I mean, you've taught us so much. We really love the fact that, like Yomi said, these aren't the things you can find in a textbook, right? This is the real life stuff that people need to hear this, and people do need help. So we're really happy to be able to get the chance to talk to you about it today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you asking me to come on.
Yes, and we thank you, honestly, once again, thank you as well. This has been wonderful. This is a lot of information. I'm still full up. I'm still like, is she going to tell me something else? You know, it's like it's overflowing with information, and it's great. And I want everyone to check you out on Instagram. I have loved this, because I'm still going to check you out even more on Instagram and checking you out on your website. We will have all the details. Definitely that will be on the podcast when it comes out live, so you will see that. But for everybody else, please keep checking us out on Instagram at Special Needs on the Table, and also on YouTube. Find us on YouTube, Special Needs on the Table. Thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you guys.
Lovely. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.